Hey guys, it's ZMangaK89 and I am back with another video. I will get back to my usual manga videos, but today I will be unboxing and reviewing the new Dir & Grey album, Arche. I had to order the deluxe limited edition because this is the first full-length album they've released since 2011 when I got into them, and that's when I heard the 2002 EP 6 Ugly. Clocking it at a lengthy 68 minutes, this new album gives us 14 new tracks, excluding the instrumental one and Tehu Tehu. I won't even count the remixes and acoustic tracks. The name of this album is Arche, which means origin or the beginning in Greek. Kyo quoted that while recording this album, he thought of his old self and his new self in terms of style, singing and self-expression, and meshed the two together as best as he could. Toshio, the bassist, said the sound was indescribable, which I think was also said about Doom Spirit Sprout, but whatever. Karu stated multiple times that the songs in this album would be much simpler and more straightforward. I noticed in their past releases, like The Marrow of a Bone, it was a super raw and heavy album, while Ouroboros went back to their roots a bit and incorporated more of a refined oriental sound. Doom Spirit Sparrow came out 3 years later, and again, it was a very heavy, aggressive, down-tuned, avant-garde and experimental album. Before this album was released, I was predicting that this album would have more of a refined, melodic and atmospheric sound, kind of like Ouroboros. When the 10-second previews of the songs came out, only the melodic parts of each song were introduced, and they even used one very slow ballad as a promotional track. This further proved my expectations for what I was predicting. But now, upon giving the album a few listens as a whole, does it match up to my predictions? The answer is no. This album is not cohesive, because there isn't anything that feels repeated. With this album, you're going to get a little bit of everything. You'll get a groovy feel in one song, very melancholy, progressive stuff in another song, a fast-paced, headbanger-esque song, and even playful tracks, like Cause of Fickleness, which by the way, definitely gives me a feel from their old Kiso era, just with newer and heavier production. Cause of Fickleness almost reminds me of their old song Machiavellism, because of its energy and playful sound. Many fans expected this album to sound like Immortalis by Kyo's side band Tsukekyo. As much as I liked that album, I'm sure glad as hell it doesn't. As a whole, this album just isn't as cohesive and well organized as Ouroboros. This is most likely due to the amount of experimentation going on with each song. The songs are a little all over the place, and it isn't until around tracks 9 to 12 that the album really feels well organized and following a main musical idea. Much like Doom Spirit Sparrow, there are some very sludgy tracks and fast-paced mosh songs. But the best thing is how Dir & Grey cannot be compared to any generic run-of-the-mill deathcore band like Chelsea Grin. Both bands essentially play from the same musical idea, but what bands like that lack is the amount of experimentation. You won't find weird, disturbing, and even inhuman noises coming from any normal deathcore singer, or even operatic crooning that you would only hear in probably Hell's Dining Hall. The thing about this album is that Dir & Grey have formed such a distinct musical identity for themselves. Many bands like Sadie and 12012 have tried to emulate the sound that they've developed, but they've failed horribly because when trying to follow the same musical formula, you can easily tell it's basically a carbon copy of a Dir & Grey song. This album definitely has its fair share of softer tracks and ballads, tracks like Tose, Rinkaku, Kukoku no Kyon, and Behind the Vacant Image. And I think that these songs are definitely one of Dir & Grey's best songs, especially Tose and Kukoku no Kyon. Once again, he's tested his clean singing range with Tose, which is definitely one of my favorite tracks of the whole album. However, I think it's come to the point where in some songs the excess heaviness is just not needed. I even found myself saying when listening to The Inferno, okay, you can chillax, calm down a bit, it's a bit too excessive. Don't get me wrong, I love their extremely heavy tracks like that, and Rasetsukoku. But when I was expecting the album to follow a tad more melodic route, it kinda just took me out of the mood. But I do like songs like that just to see how heavy the band can get. Another thing that disappointed me was that this album lacked a good opening and closing song. Ondeo was, in my opinion, one of the most generic sounding tracks out of all of them, and it just did not fit well as an opening song. Same goes for Revelation of Mankind. It's just not closing material. A thrashy song like that just isn't how I want to end the album. Now, Ruten no To from the album Doom Spirit Sparrow was a stellar closing track. I can't help but think to myself, they must have pulled inspiration from different bands and incorporated it into these tracks from recording, or maybe it was just coincidence. The ones that stood out to me the most was the fact that some of Phenomenon sounded a bit like the song Red Shoes by Nine Goats Blackout, and even towards the end it sounded like the song Ring by Lynch. wrap this up, this is a really solid album, and it does a really good job portraying where the band stands musically at the moment. They are obviously a lot more comfortable in their avant-garde experimental type of sound, and I think they've perfected it in this album where the song structures sound much more organized. Now I wonder where they're going to take it from here, and who knows, they're always constantly changing their sound and image with each release. It's one of the best things about this band, you never know what they're going to do next. For all I know, they could do something like experimental jazz next album, and I'm not even going to be surprised. I'm going to rate this album 8 out of 10. It's definitely a step up from Doom Spiro Sparrow. It almost seems to me that Doom Spiro Sparrow was sort of a test for the type of music that they're doing now. It's a great album, and I suggest that you pick it up either on CD Japan or whatever. Videos should be returning soon, and I hope you'll stick around to see them. Thanks for watching this review. I'm ZMonka89, and I'm out.